Hi, I'm Beetle Destino, and welcome back to my channel. Those tens of subscribers, we're still at tens, but we're getting closer. We're almost to hundreds. So keep subscribing. Let's get that to hundreds. I got to send out a big thank you to Matthew Street, who last week gave me a really nice promotion on my channel there. Shared a link of my videos on his channel. That's really been helping me build here. I hope everybody's liking what they're seeing. I hope, he steered you into the right direction here. I really feel like, there can't be too many of us. All of us got a different kind of story, a different kind of opinion, a different kind of thought on what's coming up. Kind of funny that video I commented to on him, I was already kind of planning a video kind of based on that. I've talked about how I've got these what if series planned out, and that was one of the what ifs that I was planning to do, was talk about those 70s compilations and international compilations that have not got any recognition yet in the modern era, I should say. No reissues, nothing on CD. I know that they do probably mean a lot to a lot of people out there. Everybody's kind of had their different era that they've came into the Beatles, with the Beatles spanning since, back in the early 60s. So, of course, you had those original people that did get the original Beatles series. And then you had kind of that next generation that came up on those 70s compilations. And going back to the original stuff, a lot of these international ones I'm going to be talking about coming up were all from the early 60s. So just kind of a different packaging, different track lists and that of what you got in the UK or in the US. Yeah, the US albums are kind of a compilation too, I guess. Probably where you're at, I guess that would be debatable. So yeah, just the same. People in, say, Argentina or Germany, these were the albums that they got, and I feel they need some recognition. So what I'm going to do kind of a trilogy of videos here to try to keep them a little shorter, and we're going to talk about my thoughts on re-releasing these compilations and getting a kind of a new take on them. Where this is kind of stemming from is 3 box sets that have already been released. Just their format and their packaging. Beautiful packaging, wonderful packaging. As I've said, I love colored vinyl, much like Beatle Brad, but I also love mini LP CDs. I'm going to propose that these compilations, these sets, be done up much like the Beatles In Mono, the Beatles U.S. albums, and the Beatles Japan Box, where these were all done in the mini LP style. Of course, the mini LP, you get recreation basically of what the original full-size LP looked like. Attention to detail on these. I've talked about, I love physical media. I love, especially when physical media is done very well with attention to detail. And these are attention to detail beyond belief. They all come in these beautiful little sleeves. Of course, the mono albums have got the flip back style like the original UK albums had. Even the inner sleeve features like it would have originally, right down to the label on the disc. And they even came with this nice little rice paper sleeve to help protect the disc too. So of course that was Please Please Me from the mono set. And I'll also show you Meet the Beatles from the US set, just to kind of show you the difference here on that attention to detail. Each of these countries that they were mimicking kind of had a different format. So in the US, of course, they did the pasted on backs, and of course that was mimicked here. There's Capitol always had all the different inner sleeves, and they matched the inner sleeve from that time. And then of course the label. The Japan box was obviously labeled as Odeon. They had a little bit of a different flip back too, so we'll open up their Meet the Beatles. Of course, a different track listing than the US one, and slightly different on the image here with the red instead of kind of the gold and the blue. And of course, I didn't really show the flip backs on this too well. It is kind of a flip back, but a little done quite different with these little indentions here. And of course, there's the Odeon label. And these just came in the plain kind of white sleeve. And they also featured the lyric sheets that were in there. And in the box too, as a bonus, they did include the Obi strips. I just absolutely love these boxes. They're just gorgeous. Beautiful pieces of physical media, extreme attention to detail. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of show you these boxes a little more in depth in each one of these 3 videos. I'm going to go a little out of order. I'm going to leave the in mono till the last one, and you'll see probably why when they release. Anyway, sit back and let's get going with the next what if. And of course, as I said, I'm going to kind of demonstrate each of these boxes, kind of show them, get that out there. I know that you've probably seen tons of unboxings of these and that, so I'm not going to open up every single one. I kind of demonstrated that already in the intro there with the one album from each box. The first box I'm going to talk about is the U.S. albums box. Of course, the front there, the guy is sitting in front of the U.S. flag. On the side here, we got the box kind of title. The other side, we got the Apple logo. And the top, we got, again, pretty much the same little logo there. And the bottom doesn't have anything, just nice blank. These were all done in a very similar format. Now, be on the lookout too. There are fakes of these out there, so be very, very careful if you haven't got these yet and you do decide to get them. I got burned on both my US albums and my mono set. What I learned, my little tip on this too, if you are searching for these, do not buy anything that's got stock photos. Make sure there's photos of the actual product you're buying. As a matter of fact, in this situation, I would buy used because you're going to have photos available. Obviously, if they're selling it new, they're not going to want to open the box. They're not going to want to open the shrink wrap and that. So get it used because you'll know that the photos you're seeing are of the actual product. And ask the seller if they don't have a lot of photos. Ask them to send some extras. I know I did with the US set. I asked that seller to send me a few more photos just to make sure. Because yeah, these are not cheap now. Anyways, to show you the box here, they all slide out like this. Everything's housed in this little tray. Everything kind of in a nice order. They all came with a very wonderful book. I'm not going to go through the books on these. Show you the front and the back, I suppose. Very fun to read. A lot of knowledge on the box. But of course, this was done to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Beatles coming to the US. Of course, the US albums box did release first in the UK and Europe on January 17th of 2014. And a few days later on January 21st of 2014 in the US. What you got in this box was, you got Meet the Beatles, the Beatles' second album, the United Artists version of A Hard Day's Night, Something New, exclusive to the box, The Beatles Story, Beatles 65, The Early Beatles, Beatles 6, Help, the US version, the US version of Rubber Soul, Yesterday and Today, of course with the famous Butcher cover. I put my sticker on the back here, so I just got to flip it around. I'm not going to open everything up here, but you do get the sticker with it to debutcherize it if you so choose. I don't know why you would. And the US version of Revolver, and also Hey Jude or The Beatles Again. One unique thing to this box, these were released individually too. Aside from the Beatles story, they all did get an individual release. I'll just show you one of them. I haven't collected them all. Why I'm even collecting them, I don't know. That's just me. I gotta have them, I guess. And the main reason, they had this wonderful little Obi strip. Anyways, that's kind of unique to the US albums box here. You did get the individual releases aside from the Beatles story, which I do understand why the Beatles story didn't get released individually. I do not think that was sold. Anyways, there's kind of the history on that particular box. And with this first video, what I'm going to talk about is the compilation albums that came out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that have not been reissued, at least since the CD era. 87, it seems like they put out past masters and the core albums, as I've called them, include Magical Mystery Tour into the main albums to kind of form that core collection where they're saying everything is out there. Well, yes, everything is out there. You know, like I said in the intro, people did get attached to these albums as they came out. Some of those 70s compilations might be their introduction to the Beatles, and people will probably have a little special place in their heart for them. And I think it would be cool to see a little box set released similar to the In Mono, the US albums, and the Japan Box, done in mini LP style, and get these albums out there. What I'm going to propose for this first box set is kind of the UK and the US albums that were released. They did kind of mirror each other pretty similar. Most of them were very similar, maybe a mix or two different here and there. But yeah, it would be fun to see these released too. I know some of them people kind of hate on, but it's still part of the Beatles story, and let's get it out there. Little pun intended maybe on the Beatles story. The first one I'm going to propose would be the December 10th of 1966 release. Never released in the US, pretty much just UK, Europe. I believe it was released in Canada too. And that would be a collection of Beatles oldies. Of course, EMI Parlophone wanted a album out for the holiday season, and they just kind of put together this compilation, seeing as the Beatles didn't have any new material, to get something out there for that season. Of course, this album does tie in also to part of the conspiracy theory of Paul is dead, with the image of Paul on the back. We'll have that up here. And with the image of him kind of in the smoke, I think it's a stretch on all this. Obviously, I don't think that Paul is dead. I believe that the man that is Paul McCartney currently is Paul McCartney, has been Paul McCartney, will always be Paul McCartney. Yeah, I don't buy into this, but it is part of their story, of course. And, you know, that would be a cool little write-up in the book to kind of talk about it. But yeah, so that'll be the first one in this collection. The next one I know is a hard one to find on vinyl. That would be, as it was called in the UK, From Then to You, and in the US, just simply the Beatles Christmas album. It was, of course, them putting the flexi disc Christmas greetings onto one album. And this was released on December 18th of 1970. And it would be nice to have these kind of all in one place, especially on a CD where you could pop it in wherever. Yeah, I suppose CD is. But obviously maybe make this available streaming too, so that way those streamers out there can have their fun too. Of course, this did kind of get a recent reissue, but only on vinyl. And this one I do got, the Happy Christmas Beatles People. Very cool with all of them on a colored vinyl, a rare thing for the Beatles. Maybe another What If coming up. Of course, all of these albums do get bootlegs all the time. I did forget to mention, I do got an unofficial release of a collection of the Beatles oldies on CD, and also a copy of the Beatles Christmas album on CD. Of course, both these unofficial releases, they do sound good and everything. You know, I'd rather put my money towards the real thing instead of an unofficial release and support the right people. Anyways, moving on to the next one in the series, and this one I do actually got a copy of. It will be the Rock and Roll Music compilation that came out June 7th of 1976. And here is my copy. I just found this recently. I know that the album art is so controversial. Of course, they were trying to get John and the Beatles involved, and they wouldn't really work with it. When this came out, they were upset about it. There's the gatefold. I really do not understand in the back there. But yeah, I really do not understand what any of this had to do with the Beatles. I'll show you the label on one of them here too, because again, it's quite puzzling what this has to do with the Beatles with a glass of Coke sitting there. Yeah, none of that says the Beatles to me. It might say rock and roll music. It would definitely say U.S. rock and roll music of the original rock and roll era in the late 50s, but it does not say the Beatles. So why they went with that? But it's still cool with the chrome kind of look to it on the US version. I know the UK version didn't get that effect, but that would be cool to see on the mini LP and done up. And, you know, like I said, in the book, talk about the story of this and what happened, why it happened, what they tried to do to stop it or prevent it or whatever. But yeah, kind of talk about that. Of course, this one would have a kind of a unique mix, and that would be cool to see on there too. George Martin did come in to mix this for Capitol. I believe, if I remember correct, it was mixed from the Capitol U.S. mixes, the stereo mixes. I don't know if he did it intentionally or accidentally, but he did reverse the left and right channel on the U.S. mix. It did get corrected on the UK mix, but that would be cool to have it with that reverse. Because one thing, if you are going to put out stuff that's got all the same music, let's at least get a different mix to it. And that's one thing that was unfortunate about the U.S. albums box set, is the fact that they did go to the 09 remasters for most of it. They did add on if there was a very unique aspect to it. The next one of these that came out was Love Songs, came out on October 21st of 1977, another double album set. And this one actually did have packaging that I think a lot of people liked. It was kind of done in a cool, kind of felt like a leather back book type feel on the cover, at least of the U.S. one. Again, the UK got just a plain kind of sleeve on it. It had this really cool gold foil photo. Of course, you'll see it up there in the corner. I don't have this one. Of course, they did redo the gold foil photo from the cover in the gatefold. Really cool photo of the guys. This, of course, had some of those reversed left and right channel songs on there too. It even did feature some of the songs in a kind of the duophonic mix, which would be Yes It Is, This Boy, and P.S. I Love You. Yeah, like I said, let's get those correct mixes on there, so you do got that unique sound to it. Next one up will be the Rarities album that came out on December 2nd of 1978 in the UK. Of course, this was first released as kind of a bonus disc, kind of almost back then like the Past Masters subscribers was in the 87 releases a bonus disc with the Beatles collection box that had all their albums in it. I really think it is kind of like a slimmed down past masters. I could see today why it would be left out of the current reissues, but it would be cool to see in this set. You know, like I said, there's somebody out there somewhere that probably this album has a special place in their heart for them. So let's get it out there for them. The next one up, released on October 13th of 1980, would be the Beatles Ballads. This one, the album art on it was originally intended to be on the Beatles or the White Album when it, in its working title of A Doll's House. Right there alone, that would be cool to get this kind of out there because of the story of that. One of their main and most popular albums. But yeah, let's get that out there. Again, this one wasn't released in the U.S. I believe it was similar to Collection of Beatles Oldies, where it was kind of UK and Europe. I think Canada again got this one. And then the next one would be the March 24th, 1980 release of Rarities, this time the US version. A lot of it, coolness of it, of course the cover wasn't great, but we'll open up the gatefold here, and you do got the Butcher cover and just some other photos of them. This one does feature some actual rarities, where the UK one nowadays doesn't. Some of these still haven't even been released on CD. One example would be And I Love Her, that featured a 6-bar ending that was a German mix. Somehow it got onto the US Rarities album there. And moving on to the next one in the set here, and this one I know is probably the most controversial of them, at least the most hated, and that would be Real Music. Released March 22nd of 1982. Features music from the films, from Hard Day's Night, Help, Yellow Submarine, Let It Be. It's a very interesting artwork. I think it would be fun to kind of study that. Of course, it did include a kind of a little insert in the box there, the program, the official program. That would be cool to see that recreated in the mini LP style. And put as a bonus track the Beatles movie medley single, and that was backed with I'm Happy Just to Dance With You. So I have, you know, a little 2-song bonus track there with those two at the end. And then the next one up would be the 20 Greatest Hits. This was released October 11th of 1982 in the US and October 18th of 1982 in the UK. Of course, this one's very similar to the Beatles 1, where that has the 27 #1 greatest hits. These have just 20, so it's obviously slimmed down. And it is different, the UK release versus the US, very different track listing. Another interesting bit on the US release is the Hey Jude version on it. They did have to slim it down to make it work on the album, which was already jam-packed. I've heard the sound on this one is just horrendous because of how much they did pack into that. It would be cool to have a slimmed-down version of Hey Jude. That version clocked in at only 5 minutes and 5 seconds versus the normal 7 minute and 11 seconds. So that would be kind of cool to get that version of it, just kind of hear it in a little different way again. But anyways, there's that first box set I'm going to propose, which is just those UK and US compilations, from one from the 60s, majority from the 70s, and a few from the 80s. And these ones have never been reissued on CD. I know I would buy this box, especially if it was mini LP style, like I said. I'm sure several Beatles people would too. So stay tuned for the next one. There'll be yet another one too coming up. But I do want to sign out. Remember, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what you think if you'd like to see these albums too. But I am Beatle Dustino, signing out.